Hello, everyone. I am Whitney Robinson, and welcome to our special Facebook Live interview series brought to you by Chaplains on the Move Outreach Ministry. We're so glad you're joining us today as we celebrate and spotlight some incredible individuals ahead of our third annual fundraising gala. Woo! This year's event will honor community leaders who are making a lasting impression. And today we have the pleasure of speaking with one of those honorees. Chaplain on the Move is a growing, innovative ministry committed to bringing hope and healing to communities affected by addiction, crime, poverty, and crisis. Now, let's turn our focus to today's honoree, Linette. Linette is a shining example of what it means to lead with compassion and purpose. And I can't wait to hear your story and learn about your work and how your journey connects with the missions of Chaplain on the Move. So welcome, Linette. It's a pleasure to have you this evening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to dive right in and really talk about your personal journey. So you wear so many hats, a mother, a daughter, aunt, niece. Can you share a little bit about how your family shaped the woman you are today?
Thank you. Thank you so much. My family, I grew up in a church. So we're God-fearing, have a lot of faith. I like to say crazy faith. So, in the midst of obstacles and stuff like that, we know who we serve, and we just know but God at the end. And my parents have been very active in a community, so it's just natural that I'm active. And just growing up, leaning not on my own understanding, but on God's, gives me hope and the desire and courage to, in the midst of obstacles, find the hope and the positive to help our community.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, people don't realize how much your family affects who you turn out to be, and some people allow a family that may have not been as supportive or to kind of hinder their progress. And then some really have that supportive community around them that really builds them up. So that's beautiful to see that you're continuing to work with your community and in your community. So were there any defining moments in your life that you can think of, maybe growing up or early in adulthood, that helped plant the seed for your advocacy work?
I think growing up in Brooklyn and Brownsville in particularly, and then moving into Addersley Park in Queens, one of the wealthiest urban communities in the world, was kind of a shock to me. Because growing up in Brownsville, I had free piano lessons, free instruments. There were all types of free programming, although the community was impoverished. And then coming to a wealthy community, once I had children, I was shocked that they didn't have a lot of resources. And I think when I first started having children, and that's when, in 1994, that's when I said, okay, I have to help. I have to help the community because I had to help me. I was a single parent and I had two boys, and I wanted to make sure that they had, grew up. It's one thing being a single parent, but being a parent of a Black child, we have to have those conversations because we want them to come back home at night. So that's when my children started out at the NAACP daycare center. And I was always one of those, I would say, curious parents. Some may say complaining.
You just have to make sure,
But, I always asked why. And from there, Then there was Dr. Jean Phelps. She was the chairperson of the NAACP, the president, and the chair of the daycare center. And, I asked, why you don't have this? Why do you not have that? And she was like, well, why don't you be the advisor for the youth?
That's the first question.
Oh, Lord. I didn't know any. And that what shocked me, too, that I did not know much about my history. At 24 years old, I was like, wait a minute, I really don't know much. And that's when I just, started fighting or advocating. I wouldn't say fighting, advocating for not only, and I knew that I could not only fight for my children, I had to fight for everyone's children.
That's beautiful. And that last part, that really hit home, because I also had my daughter when I was young, but I wasn't by myself. I don't like to say I was a single parent, because I was not. Her dad was very present, but she did live with me. So a lot of the things, the daily living, I had to take care of on my own. But I did have a lot of support, and it does take a village. So it's like, you need that community around you to help out. And when you said Brownsville, that's where our church was for a really long time. And that's where I learned outreach. Going out with the missionaries and speaking to the community, that's how I learned how to do that. And our bishop talks about that a lot, about how many things that we've learned through the church, public speaking, learning how to sing, learning how to act, learning how to dance. A lot of this stuff comes from the church. And it's really about people not just thinking about their own family and their own children, but thinking about the community and the children in the community. So that's beautiful. So we're going to pivot a little bit to your community impact. You're known for being a strong community advocate. Thank you for that. Can you tell us a little bit about what community means to you and what called you to serve in your community?
Community means being active wherever you are. I always tell people, what are some problems that you feel are in the community, and focus on those. What you're passionate about, it will be easy to advocate for. And I always say, always ask why. Don't just stop and accept, but ask the why is this happening? My brother, he's incarcerated. He's been incarcerated for over 30 years. My son is 30 years now. And, he was young. My dad and his mom, they were on drugs. That's when the crack era came up and stuff like that. And, even now with some of the parents in the community, is always, oh, well, they blame it on the parents at home. But then you got to ask why. I grew up in Brownsville, and I could have been a statistic.
Yeah.
I smoked marijuana when I was young. I could have been in jail, or I could have got AIDS, or, been strung out on crack.
Ooh, but God.
But God, but then we have to ask why. Why did that happen? How did that happen? So, being an advocate in the community, and, community to me means, not only helping you and your family, making sure that you're all right, but everyone. I always said I had to help my children's friends too, because I didn't know who they were going to start dating and having families with, so you want to make sure, as I get older, I want to make sure I can live in a community. My grandmother, although I lived in Brooklyn and Brownsville, she could call anyone outside to go to the store for her. And they would go to the store for her and bring her change back.
I don't know if it's still like that, Linette.
You know what? It is. I will tell you, when I was the PTA president for both of my kids, for their schools, from daycare center, the NAACP daycare center,
Oh, wow. That's
up
beautiful.
until high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I will tell you, at one point, even my child, with all of the advocacy, he wasn't going right, and I had to stay in his class for a day. And they were telling me, oh, this is one of the worst classes. And even with him, they were like, oh, well, we'll move him. I was like, no, let's focus on these kids. And at one class, the teacher had no control, but I got up in front of the class as a mother and the mother of everyone. And for 45 minutes, they listened to me. They respect me because they knew I was talking to them with love.
Yeah.
And some of those students to this day come and, oh, I remember you, Miss Linette. And I, don't even remember, but I made an impact.
Absolutely.
Also now I'm on a board of Community Youth Care Services, and I worked there for 11 years as the program manager, and I'm the chief financial officer for Fathers Alive in the Hood. And we get some of those students, young people in a community that people may think are a problem. But when we talk to them with love and pray with them, they are the sweetest.
Yeah.
Growing up in Brownsville, I didn't know how bad Brownsville was. I went to the school again. Because we had free piano lessons and music lessons. I had an opportunity to attend LaGuardia School of Performing Arts and Music.
Oh, beautiful! Yeah.
I didn't know how bad my community was until I went there, and other Black people from other communities was like, "Wow, you from Brownsville?"
Oh, Lord.
But then I was like, oh, well, maybe it is bad. But when you're living there, you're using your survival skills. But then we were also family. And I tell some of the superintendents, last year I took a trip to Washington, D.C., and I tell some of the superintendents, and I strategically took some students from Brownsville. And I tell the superintendents, look, I'm a product from Brownsville. So, and that's too, look, I wear so many hats. I'm the youth.
Yeah. I'm hearing this. When do you sleep?
From Community Board 12. And this year, in October, when I'm being honored, it's going to be the first year, the second year that we really celebrate Youth Empowerment Month. October is Youth Empowerment Month, thanks to my elected official, Dr. Natasha Williams. Last year, she sponsored the legislation. I just wanted us to do something for October because out here in Queens, they do the whole thing for the seniors in September. And she said, well, why don't we just make legislation so it's for the whole New York City? And they did. And we want to change the narrative about our young people that everything is bad. I don't care what someone did. They're still someone's brother, sister, maybe mother or father, and there's something good about them. Especially today in this climate, we have to show more love and meekness and mercy.
Absolutely. That was really powerful. And there were so many amazing things that you said in there. I was trying to hold on to them in my mind because I want to stay on advocacy a little bit. Because it's so important. Even when you said about, you're a product of Brownsville, they need to see that. And it's so much is happening as far as not enough advocacy in marginalized groups, where sometimes they'll be cast to the side because it doesn't seem like it's worth the energy or time. And we need people like you and you encouraging others to stand with you and advocate for these communities and for these young people. I just want to talk a little bit more about, we hear the word advocacy, but for you, what does that role actually look like day to day? Because some people feel like to be an advocate, they have to have this many people supporting them, or they have to have this type of knowledge. What does that advocacy look like day to day?
So I would say for me, I don't have my college degree.
Mhm.
I came up where my parents didn't go to college, and their mindset when I was growing up was, after you get out of school, we don't have money for college, so get a job. So I was blessed to be able to, at 19 years old, get a job at United Parcel Service, one of the top Fortune 500 companies in the world. And I've been there for 34 years.
Oh,
And I've been able to grow up in management. And, UPS kind of really taught me when it comes to business. So I say just start where you are. You
mhm.
don't need all of these letters, numbers, and all of that stuff. But after your name, I even tell a youth, if you have lived, you are proficient in something, and use that in what you're passionate about. Find out when you I say it's okay to complain, but then you have to suggest and put action to it.
Yeah. I
You
love
can't
that.
just complain about something.
I love that.
Now it's, how do we change it? And be okay with making a mistake.
Hmm.
I tell people all the time, I don't have permanent friends. Whitney, you and I can agree on something, but guess what? We both could agree to disagree on some stuff. That don't mean
That's
that
okay.
we're enemies.
Hmm.
It's just, I agree with this. And, often, especially when it comes to advocacy work, is like, oh, if you're first for someone, you have to be for someone. But standing up, and I've been blessed to be able to be an advocate in my community because I didn't work for a city agency or anything that was a conflict. So I said whatever I wanted to say, what I felt was right.
Hmm.
And when you speak with what you feel is right and true, although sometimes your perspective, because of your growth, it's only from what you know. So
Mm.
you may later on change your perspective because you have some new information. That
And
is,
that's okay. Hmm. That's okay.
that's
Oh
okay.
man, there's so many people who need to hear that. There's so many people who are committed to being part of a certain group just because it's the group they've been with. And if you get some new information that has given you a change of heart, it's okay to change.
Yeah.
That's a word right there. And I just want to reiterate what you said earlier too about starting where you are, using what you have. Advocacy can look like so many different things, but what's really important is that you get started.
But I will add that the power of prayer and
Mm.
the power of God. When we first started out, this is our, I think, 18th year for Community Youth Care Services after school program. We're in PS 176, and
Mhm.
we're also in PSMS 147. When we first started out as a PTA president, as a parent, we just wanted a quality out of school program for our children, and we did not see that. We didn't know where to start. But I will tell you, I prayed and prayed and said, God, I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I want something that's good for not only my child, for all children. Every time I woke up, and this is the power of prayer, it's like he would just place me in meetings where the decision maker was.
Mm, mm, mm.
Our Senator Comrie, he was our city council person then. He had this training for nonprofits, and we went through this whole training. And the person that he had there from the state, he said there's only two people that approve the nonprofits, and I'm one of them.
Mm.
I went, got his number,
Okay.
built out my 1023, did everything, and was able to communicate with him to make sure that we were right. God will give you, he will open up doors seen and unseen and overflow your cup.
Amen.
Where if you do God's work, he
Mhm.
will do your work.
Amen. Lord. Don't have me get up. I'm trying to stay seated. Okay.
Look, but God, you gotta, anytime I have an opportunity to tell my testimony that it may help someone else, to let them know you don't have to be, and please, I learn every day.
Mm-hmm.
I make a point, especially with this new artificial intelligence and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We have to learn every day. So I am pro learning.
Mm-hmm.
You don't just book, we know our ancestors, a lot of our forefathers did amazing things on third grade level.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think, oh, I'm not smart enough or I'm not this. You are just enough
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
with God.
Yeah, listen, I needed to hear that myself at my big age of 40. I needed to hear that just now. Amen. So I want to dig a little bit deeper because we are talking about as you move more into like really putting God first and trusting in God and what you plan to do. Um I want to speak a little bit about faith and resilience. Were there ever moments where you wanted to give up? And if so, what kept you going?
Prayer.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like we already there, but yeah.
Prayer. I'll just mention a short story. As being a mother, and my children's father had moved to Atlanta, so he was like miles away. And when they were younger, is what I say, that's it. But then when they got a little older, and it was like, okay, they're not listening to me. I had to know to let go and let God and be okay with that, knowing that God will handle it. And me just continuing to be the advocate, a person that shows love. I never forget, because my kids, they didn't have a choice. They had to be members of the NAACP, go to all of the meetings, and they were
That's
like, oh,
beautiful.
they hated it. But once they were there, and they were in the moment. And later on in life now, they're like, thank you, Ma, so much for the way you raised us, but it was God, because I didn't know. I don't care what manual they have, how many times people can give you advice and stuff like that. Human beings are different. You don't know what is going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't care how much seeds you plant, and that's good. God will water it, and you have to give it over to God.
Gotta give it over to God. You're
And
right.
when you do that, He will, and you just keep loving on them, He will just bloom. I love my kids, and I'm blessed that they didn't have to be a statistic. They're great young men, God-fearing young men, have good, jobs. And it's not all about the job, but their spirit is good.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. That's beautiful. We are leading up to Chaplain on the Move's third annual fundraising gala. And congratulations again on being honoree. So well deserved.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I would love for you to speak a little bit about the importance of faith-based organization. I feel like you said it throughout this entire interview, but I really want to kind of give that sound bite for people who want to maybe share this video of the importance of faith-based organizations like Chaplains on the Move in like today's world.
Chaplains on the Move Outreach Ministries is so important, especially in today's world where everyone used to go to church or some faith-based organization on Saturday or Sunday, where that may not be the same now. It may not look the same. Some people do online. But as we know, people are dealing with a lot of mental illness and stresses. And it's so important now to be able to tap into the power of prayer.
Yes.
Especially with what's going on in the world today. Knowing that God is still in control. And, often, we try to stay so strong and so used to being strong and not letting go. Always have to have, the last word or, speak about something. Having that personal relationship with God, understanding that you can go to him in prayer and he will have mercy on you with love and meekness is so important, especially in this day and time today. So I thank Chaplains on the Move at our last Wealth and Wellness event last August. They were able to give school supplies, minister to people, and that's what it's about. Is getting to the people what they need, and most important, the power of prayer.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think everything you said was absolutely on point. And we need organizations like Chaplains on the Move because, like you said, people are not coming into the church anymore. You got to go out to them. You got to meet them where they are. And I've worked with Chaplains on the Move a couple of times. And what I have to tell you is that they definitely start everything with prayer. They end everything with prayer. And prayer is all throughout the ministry for that day. And I love that they train everyone who works with their organization to not worry about how someone looks. Don't worry about how someone smells. Don't worry about if they look like they're not, they are under some sort of influence. At the end of the day, they're a child of God. And if they need help, they need help.
And God will clean all of that up. God will clean all of that up. And that's where you can't judge. Because all I could tell you is but God.
Amen.
Because I know I was a hot mess.
We was all a hot mess.
Let me tell you, I always use the phrase love and meekness. And, people now, they're like, oh, you're so nice. I said, oh, no, I'm from Brownsville. You don't know. Love and meekness is for me. Love and meekness is so that I can stay grounded.
Yeah.
That put on a little bit more love and meekness. Because, sometimes just like what you said, and that's why the church is so important too in ministry, because it teaches you public speaking. It teaches you. When I went from Brownsville to LaGuardia, it was a culture shock. I was always getting in arguments and would say to myself, I didn't mean for it to go, because I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you gotta put a lot of love and meekness on that, especially in, today's time.
Absolutely. Love is so necessary in everything that we do. And we need to love like Christ.
Yeah.
So I want to give this one last question about your legacy and vision. When people hear your name and they hear Linette years from now, what do you hope they remember about Linette Townsley?
That I helped somebody.
He's going to say, well done, my good and faithful servant. And when your name comes up, just like them kids remembered, oh, I remember you, Miss Linette. That's how it's going to be. That's beautiful. And that's the way we should all live. Just wanting to have our legacy is that we help people.
Yes.
That's beautiful. I love that you ended with that. All right. So, yeah. So Linette, I want to thank you so much for sharing your heart and your story with us today. Your dedication and service truly embodies what Chaplain on the Move is all about, offering love, grace, support to those who need it most. So to everyone watching, we invite you to join us in celebrating Linette and all the other honorees at the annual Chaplain on the Move's fundraising gala. Your support helps the organization continue the vital work of bringing hope to people in their darkest times. Be sure to follow our page and stay updated on future interviews and all the amazing things God is doing through this ministry. So until next time, keep spreading love, living with purpose, and being the light in your community. God bless. Thank you,
Thank
Linette.
you.
Thank
Thank you so much, beautiful.
you.